very good afternoon to all of you. On behalf of CitrusPay, I welcome you all to Upstart Series 5, Hiring for Startups. Upstart is a series of meetups for entrepreneurs where we get speakers to come and speak to you about various aspects of starting up, from being bootstrapped to raising funds to scaling your business to hiring the right talent this time around. Citrus began as a startup 5 years back, and we've grown from a 4-member team to a 300-member organization now. And we understand the pain of starting up and scaling, finding the right resources, how important it is to build the right team so that we are able to build a product that can reach out to over 22 million consumers, over 10,000 merchants, and reach out to process transactions to the tune of $3 billion annually. And Citrus onboards thousands of merchants every month, especially startups, and we get to hear a lot of startup stories of how entrepreneurs often face a lot of challenges in finding the right people, how the right resource has always been a costly one, how the Mr. Right hire becomes soon the Mr. Wrong hire, and how difficult it is to keep a team motivated. So listening to all these stories, we came up with this topic of hiring for startups. And it's important as an entrepreneur, as a startup, to hire the right people. It's also important to hire at the right time. As entrepreneurs, we tend to do a lot of multitasking on our own. We are able to fit into multiple jobs. But does that hold true for when we are hiring a resource, an employee for our company? Today, we have 3 speakers who would be speaking to you about hiring for startups. First, we have Darshan Godbole, who is the CEO of Wenger & Watson. Darshan is going to speak about various hiring techniques. Wenger & Watson is a preferred hiring consultant to many top VCs and funded startups. So it's going to be an interesting session that Darshan is going to take for you guys, and there's a lot of insights that you can learn from him. Next, we have Rishabh, who is the co-founder of Belong. Belong helps organizations discover, engage, and hire the right talent at the right time. And Rishabh is going to speak to you about some unconventional experiments in hiring. Finally, we have Sangeeta Lobo, who is the HR head at CitrusPay, and she's going to speak about the journey of a rock star becoming a rock. So from rock stars to rocks, the journey, right? Just a disclaimer before the session starts, that these are all opinions voiced by individuals and does not necessarily personify the views of the companies that they represent, right? So I'm getting the session started. I request Darshan to come and speak.
All right. So before I start my, quick presentation, right? So there are probably 2 things which I wanted to talk before I start. One, definitely I think we all of us are expecting great energy levels on the floor, very important. So feel free to ask a lot of questions related to hiring, right? And second, this presentation is more going to be very action oriented, right? So this presentation is not going to talk about planning. It's going to be more action oriented. That's what I felt for entrepreneurs, founders. I think actions are more important when they bootstrap an organization, right? So these are the 2 agendas for me today, right? So let me start with this slide. So I have only 4 slides. So my request is, concentrate more on content than colors. So I put a very simple color today. Yeah. So skill versus talent, right? This is something we need to give importance. Are we, as an entrepreneur, do we want to hire a skill or do we want to hire a talent? So in my opinion, if you are hiring a skill, it's like a temporary hiring for you, right? These are the candidates who will come prepared, and you just raise the bar, they don't know anything after that, right? But you all have to hire talent is what I feel, because they are the long timers for building the organization. So that one day, 1 month of putting efforts to hire a good talent can change your life, right? So that is where, you know, we need to give importance for hiring talent than a skill, right? Also, I am sure this is a very, very basic fundamental, I have put it across. Hired definition, right? So hired definition, usually we have seen in many startups, you know, hey, you know, 3 candidates got offered. I'm very happy. So as if, you know, they joined, right? So it won't work in that way. So your candidate joins your organization, completes 3 to 5 months successfully, and has started adding some value to the organization. That is where we, you know, complete the definition of hired. Hey, you know, I got a good hire for my organization. So that is something which we need to understand here. Any questions? Any questions, you can interrupt me. Yeah. So the best practices to hire top talent. So these are my experiences in last 14 years for recruiting for various startups and enterprise organizations, right? You know, we need to give a genuine, wonderful story, right? We know that we want to hire good candidates. We have a job description, you know, in place which says hire IITians, hire BITSians, hire NITs. All those things are there on the table already for all of us. But what is important is, what is our storyline to hire a great talent, right? How are we making it very interesting, right? So a genuine story is very important, right? If my company vision is for next 18 months to 24 months, it is very important to communicate that, right? Why 18 months? Why not 36 months? And trust me, sensible candidates do accept it in a very professional way, right? So let's not think to add something else just to attract the talent, right? So I think wonderful story is very important for us to define as founders. Second point, interesting, right? Playing games. We have advised few companies, both from US and Indian startups, you know, wherein they play various games when a candidate comes in, right? You take up an example of carom board, they analyze concentration. You take up an example of playing a chess with the hiring manager and the candidate, it talks about intelligence factor, right? Some of them play foosball. You all know about foosball, right? So you can do a speed analysis there. The way they play, you know, you can analyze the speed. So I think these are important parameters for us when we are hiring a candidate, right? So it is a way of, you know, analyzing. So some of the startups are doing this already, right? Conducting really awesome interviews, right? So gone are those days where we ask questions like, what about your personal background? Are you married? And, talk about yourself. I'm not saying that these are unimportant questions, but definitely these are not the only questions to hire a top talent. Give them good scenarios, right? Scenario-based questions you can ask. You can give them a real problem to solve, right? And see how they solve the problem. See, other part is most of the startups should not look at an exact solution from a candidate. Then there are high chances you may lose a good candidate, right? So give a lot of importance to the approach, the way he applies. Respect the candidate if he writes a good flowchart or an algorithm, if he doesn't code, right? Because that is something we can teach. Somebody knows C++, I think Java can be taught, but acha flow chart and acha algorithm is very important, right? So a lot of companies give, such kind of, they do such kind of analysis, right? So scenario-based, caselet-based, I think if you are hiring product managers, IIMs, SPJN candidates for sales, business development kind of roles, I think giving them caselets and asking them to solve problems are very important, right? Simulation-based, you create an environment. This usually we have seen lot of startups practice this simulation-based techniques when they are hiring, very, very high-end skills like your machine learning, data mining, these kind of skills, right? Because you need to give them a simulation and, ask them to do and execute the task, right? And learn and train from it, right? So this is one technique. Team-based technique, that again boils down to playing the games, right? And analyzing how are the team players. Then always make it a performance-based interview. It should not be yeah, it was a very nice interview for me, right? Never ever give that filler. You know, when the candidate exits, he should feel that, yeah, my performance was questioned. My failure was questioned. So it is okay if founder asks a question to a candidate, when did you fail, right? It's a very tricky and a difficult question to answer. Whether it is at an engineering manager level or at a director level, doesn't matter, you can ask. We should ask these questions. So let it be a performance-based interview, right? Than a, skill-based interview, right? Asking some really unusual questions. This is something, we work with a couple of VC-funded firms, they practice this. If given a chance that you like red color, right? So what do you do with red color, right? Given a chance, you get an opportunity to become a lion, right? So what do you do if you become a lion? Extremely innovative answers you get, and you can do a good analysis. Is it a great talent for me or not, right? So recently somebody said, if I become a lion, I will roar, I will shout, I will jump, right? Versus a really sensible candidate said, I will see how I can feed, right? I will see how I can take care. I will see how I can give them challenges to, go for a new prey, right? These are the interesting answers we get when we, ask these questions to them. So I think you can immediately conclude that they are creative, they are innovative. That's what we need when we define a top talent, right? So I think it should be a, unusual question asking session we should have when we are hiring a top talent. Do not compromise on communication skills, because in a startup kind of environment, you want to hit the sales cycles also very soon, right? So you might be interested to hire a top coder, or a top programmer at any level, whether it is an SDE1, SDE2, or a tech lead and an architect. But I think this plays a very important role, right? They may not essentially go and do a sales when he or she is a coder, but you are also giving them a promise that, come and join me as an engineer, and then you will get an engineering manager after 4 years. Right? So when they become an engineering manager, I'm sure they need to influence their team. They need to ensure those team members look up to them. So that is very important. So we usually advise startups not to compromise on communication skill. Any questions? Sorry, I'm being too fast. Yeah, please. Sure. Great. Yeah, so any company which is very serious, right, has a good roadmap for 18 months to 24 months, or if an entrepreneur has a objective to sell the company maybe in next 8 months, right? We have seen both the sides, right? Where I got a first USP from an entrepreneur recently saying that when I asked him, hey, what is your USP for your company? He said, I have identified who is going to acquire my company. And he already told me the names. So the core values or loyalty factor comes into the picture. I think that should be given highest importance, right? So if you compromise core values, trust me, it is a we are going to face big issues tomorrow, right? Because I was just talking to Sangeeta how difficult it is to ask a candidate to leave the organization, because it's very emotional, right? As an entrepreneur, you may complete 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, but still, asking a candidate to leave is very emotional, right? So do not compromise on core values. Do not compromise. You don't compromise on talent. you can compromise on skill, right? That is something you can build it over a period of time, right? You have tools and techniques to build your skill, but do not compromise on core values and, talent. Hope I answered. Yeah. Sure, sir. All right, so today, I specifically didn't wanted to talk about tools for recruiting, but definitely we all know there are many tools for recruiting. So we have one speaker today who is going to talk. He has a tool which is belong.co. Then we have LinkedIn. We have so many other tools, right? I didn't want, yeah. Assessment tools, I think there are Hacker Ranks. Merit Track gives a test for many candidates, Hacker Earth, right? You have, I see a lot of recruitment tools also getting integrated with tests today like JobWhite, etc., right? So I think there are a lot of tools for you to assess the skill at a basic level, but I think that is you are covering just 10% of it. What matters for us is the engagement part, right? After you give him a Hacker Rank test, it's easy for ask him to bring to your table to interview, but after that is what we want to focus on, because that is where the top talent hiring comes into the picture. But yeah, these are the tools which we can look at for assessing, right? Any other questions? Yeah, please.
Yeah. Hi. Okay. Generally, I'll give you a scenario which I've been facing for the past few days.
Right.
So I was hiring few candidates for technology team.
Right.
And I faced this issue. So they asked me one thing, whether your startup is funded or not. So I have co-founded a startup which is bootstrap startup basically. Now, when they ask me, I say, yeah, it's funded, not by your investor, but it's funded by the customers that we are serving to in Bangalore. All right? But they kind of hesitate to understand this matter that bootstrap startup is something that they can still work on. So all they are focusing on is funded startup. And we are not funded as of now. So that is a problem I'm facing. So any solution for that will be really great.
Sure. I think here, when you interview this candidate, right? Yeah, it's important that this candidate is asking a question, but I think the follow-up question for you should be, what is his intent, right? The intent has to be very clear, right? In my opinion, I think you should talk to them more about your company vision. What are some of the exciting technical challenges that you are going to give it to him? Is he going to have a strong roadmap of growth in next 1 year down the line, right? And you should also talk about the customers that you are intending to get on board. I think these are the questions we should answer them, which will make him to feel safe, right? End of the day, in India, it's a large services country, right? Startup is something it is picking up, right? It is still a large services country, and still if somebody gets an offer from a startup versus an IBM, they prefer IBM, right? Because of various things, right? So the job security do play an important role in a country like India, but as an entrepreneur, I think we need to talk about these challenges, what you are going to give. See, a sensible candidate, right? If you are facing a sensible candidate, I think you should also talk about the empowerment. How much as an entrepreneur you are going to empower him or her, right, to make things happen. I think if you can cover these kind of pointers, I think they will be less worried about whether you are a VC funded or a self-funded, all right? These are the motivation factors. The work, right? You need to somewhere tell him also that, our salary cycles are stable, right? Very important, right? So again, it boils down to the job security factor, right? But these should be the motivating factors for them. I can't think anything else than this, right? We should sell more about our organization and give a nice story, which is very genuine. Hope I answered, sir. Yeah, the last slide, the last but one slide, yeah. So measures for management and founders, right? This is a particular slide I made it for, the drivers who are sitting here, right? So hire the best employee, not the best candidate. The difference here is when you give a JD to your HR that, hey, I want best candidates, right? What happens, the definition of best candidates is they always come prepared for an interview. Usually they gave you the skill-based answers. I am good at Java, I am good at J2E, I am good at stacks, I am good at queues. Anything you ask more than that, they fail, right? And these are the guys who will also tell their friends, interview was very tough, they answered all questions which I didn't know, right? So these are your best candidates, right? Hire the best employee. If you are serious about your company that it is going to make a big leap in next 3-4 years, then you need such people who can stay with you. So you will compromise on the skills. When I say compromise, maybe 80% is really good at coding, rest 20 he has to pick up. But he is best employee because he has nice core values, he fits in my culture, right? So we need to have a demarcation there. Am I hiring a best candidate or a best employee? Org vision culture, I spoke already. It's very important, right? I have seen in some of the companies, they are just a 10-member team and 15-member team, and don't take it personally. That is my request here. Already a disclaimer is mentioned by the people here, but founder feels that I think now I should not meet the candidate because there are people who are going to take care of my hiring. See, until you grow to a size of 100, 200 or even more than that, it is very important for a founder or an MD or a CEO to keep meeting the candidates. The offer rollout can happen from different departments, but it's a big picture that they are going to get when a founder meets for 15-20 minutes, right? So the communication of vision and how do you share that vision when you join my company is going to be very important here, right? Because vision we can communicate once or twice, but are you communicating it to your team members every now and then is going to be very important. So talk about your vision sharing process and vision communication process, right? The candidate-centric approach. This is very important file. This I face mostly many number of times when we work for startup ecosystem, right? Because see, I do, give that importance and pride that an entrepreneur will have, right? Because I am running the show, I am running an organization, this is my company, I need to do really well. Yes, it is definitely, that's an important feeling, but alone can you do it, right? When you want to make it big, it won't happen, right? So how much candidate-centric approach do you follow when your candidate enters the interview room, right? So give him more importance, right? Talk about the empowerment, right? Tell him very honestly that, hey, we are hiring to run the show here. He will feel very great, right? But when we show a control factor, right, that is where, you will be losing out the top talent. So we should not show control factor, let's show confidence factor while interviewing them, right? So that's where I meant candidate-centric approach, right? V and empowerment factor than I factor, very important. Clarity on ready or to be ready. This is very important. Recently, one of our startup client wanted to hire a CTO, right? From last 8 months, they are confused whether should I hire a CTO or should I hire somebody who is at a VP level who can get elevated to a CTO. See, there is a big clarity that an entrepreneur should have, right? If you are so confirmed that I want to hire a CTO, then please be answerable that how will this CTO stay as a CTO for next 3 years, right? Otherwise, to be on a safer side, to be assured that you want to give a growth to that candidate, you hire a VP guy, VP marketing or a VP technology guy, and give him a roadmap for a CTO, right? That is where you need to be very careful at any job level. It might be a BD guy, right? You hire a business development manager, right? Be very clear whether you have customers with you already so that you know you can go build relationship and get you more business. If not, probably you want a lead generator who will come and do all cold calling, hunt calls for you and then convert the customer, right? So we need to be very clear here whether we want a ready guy or a to be ready kind of guy. In this way you can utilize your investment properly, right? You can manage the money factor properly here, right? Then the candidate realization. So this is a very important point. So this usually comes at the end of your discussion when you identify a top talent, right? You should realize a candidate that these are the areas that he is good at, these are the areas he is not good at. This is very important, right? If we don't communicate this to the candidate, to a sensible candidate, right, then probably that is not a good hire for you, right? He may decline your offer also, right? Because he wants to know what is I am lacking, right? He wants to know. Definitely a good candidate wants to know. So that becomes a important part when you are concluding your discussion, saying that he is my best hire, because he also realized that I don't know all these things. And that is what I'm getting in this new company, right? So ensure that realization happens to the top talent. Have a role model organization to hire. I'm sure you will believe this because, for example, for Wenger Watson, the role model for us is Google. Because there are many reasons for it. There are a lot of videos about Google, but when you are hiring a top talent, you should map a company which is hiring the best talent, right? See, it is slightly unfortunate that you don't find those many role models in India from a product R&D stuff, but there are very good services companies like Infosys Set Labs, TCS Labs in Pune, Mumbai, who hire the best talent. I think we should make some attempt to study these role model companies, and it is okay to replicate it and make it fine-tuned, right? There is no harm in that, but we should have some role models to generate ideas here. Yeah, sure. Yeah, following their system, coming to know what they do, how they hire. I think there are a lot of videos on YouTube which you can see there, right? So. Interns, so that's where, so whether you are hiring an intern or right? We do suggest hiring interns, but it depends on your need, right? Because they will take more time to learn, and you may, if you are expecting an output from them in couple of quarters, it may not happen, right? So probably you may want to hire an intern to do a little bit lower level job, right? So that he picks up and assimilates into the culture of the company and become an SD for you, right? Or a sales guy for you. Hiring an intern is not a bad idea, but you should not hire an intern because your objective is to reduce cost. Then probably it won't work. Yes, sir. Right. Right.
He worked for 2 months with me, but while he was about to ready, he discontinued on the communication part. And then later I got a long WhatsApp that I need my money back. So to catch him, I took some money also so that he should be stuck with me. For long term, I gave him some equity. Those agreements were there. So after 2 months, when he was ready, from to be ready to ready, he wrote a long WhatsApp that I'm facing some situation, and he left out. So this is the first question. So how to find the right guy at the executive level who should be for a long run. And the second question here, that I am that guy who can go for a long run and with a trust, but how to get hired.
Right. Yeah. So I think, yeah, many startups are looking at hiring people at co-founders level who can be more interested to take the equity than the salary, right? So I think one of the point which I mentioned, asking some of the unusual questions, right? Find out what are the kind of calculated risks that person has taken in life, right? Whether it is personal or professional, that doesn't matter. But they should have taken some kind of calculated risk which would have impacted him positively, right? I think if we are able to ask this question, you will be able to find a candidate who can at least show an interest to take up equity, right? And though he would have taken a risk in life, we should not conclude that, okay, he will be a right candidate for us who will take the equity. You know, you also show him the earning part, right? This is how the roadmap of my firm is. This is how it is going to grow. This is the way I am going to acquire my customers. When so many customers on board, this is the time I break even, and this is the money you can definitely make, right? But for that, me and you have to work in this way, right? I think if that is communicated, the earning part and the risk factor part, I think they will be able to help you. Right? And ensure that they don't have any other issues in life, right? You should hire someone, you know, who is a genuine risk taker, or someone who has made lot of money and now he is ready to take that risk, right? So beach wala person will not work, who is not clear about both these things. It should help you. Yeah, so what's the second part? Sorry. Yeah, I think social media. Yeah, you need to have social media, connect with your first degree friend contacts. I think look at who is your trust community around you, right? They should be able to help you, right? I definitely don't want to brand Venga Watson. Yeah. So
I have a question.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
So I co-founded a startup about 3 years back.
Very nice.
My question is regarding the initial team, which is very important in any startup. You know,
Right.
They form the foundation of the startup to build the product, build the business or whatever it is. So my question is, all the points that you mentioned are very relevant in terms of, you know, risk-taking ability, risk appetite, and all that. But how do you gauge that in an interview? Or because these are all related to the mindset and the attitude of the person himself. So these are not related to, you know, write a program in Java or you know, C# or whatever. So how do you gauge this during an interview process? Is it possible to even gauge it? Because I have had some bad eggs back in my history as far as hiring is concerned. So how do you go about gauging this? And my second question is related to the retention of the employee. You know, yes, some of them will be excited by the concept of a startup. They don't know what they are getting into many a times. They immediately equate you to maybe a Flipkart or a Snapdeal or, you know, Paytm or someone like that. And they will come in with that sort of expectations. And when they don't see that happening, you suddenly see their energies drop, right? And so keeping them motivated is, or even to, you know, pass on the vision, what you have, is one aspect of it, which you do it initially. But how do you keep driving them on a day-to-day basis to, you know, over a prolonged period of time in order to, you know, absorb them within your company and make them part of that founding team, which is a very important part of the organization building.
To answer your first question, right? Yeah, that is something, you know, we need to have a particular format of interviewing, right? It should not be at a very basic level that we ask these questions, right? That's where, what are the unusual, do you have a list of 10 unusual questions that you want to ask a candidate, which covers all the parameters that you spoke, right? Do you have a process which raises the bar of a candidate, right? Many of the companies practice a system called as a bar raiser round, right? So there you are going to ask few questions which probably you wouldn't have dreamt about, right? Put them in a very uncomfort zone, right? When you are when you are asking or putting them in a bar raiser round, you are almost sure that you are hiring a right candidate. But it is very important to know whether in a tough situation or a conflicting situation, how this, hire will act upon you. I think some of these techniques should help you, right, to hire, know whether this candidate comes with such kind of combinations, right? That is one part. On the retaining part, see, I always felt that continuous communication is going to be very important, right? Because you don't know how an employee rates the founder or a manager for what kind of communication, right? I have seen some of the employees, they are very unhappy because, manager only called them to have lunch with them. It's a very basic level I'm saying, but in a startup ecosystem that is very visible to you, right? When such things happens. Probably this is okay, maybe in a large company like IBM, chalega types because they are into services, ek Java nahi hai to aur ek Java milega, right? So we are not operating in this model, right? So every communication you make has to be continuous, right? And I think that's the way to retain talent, right? If you are bringing a boss after 6 months, right, it is a fair deal to communicate with your top talent saying that, hey, you know what, I'm working with you and I'll continue to work with you, and I think we form a great association, but we are also growing, right? Today, you have a lot of visibility. Tomorrow from 20, we are becoming 200. So there will be a new boss coming in. So you keep them aware about it, such kind of things. Then I don't think so they will quit, right? So I think these are extremely sensitive things. I think the only solution I see is communicating with them. Yeah.
Zero correlation to job performance. So really you should not use interviews to judge whether the person is going to be good or not. Yeah. Right. So some of the other parameters which have higher correlation are references, right? Especially peer references. So try to get references at the peer level, right? Do a 360-degree reference process, right? The other thing that studies have shown that have impact is like, the actual resume itself, right? Like, what are their achievements? What have they done, right? And then the interview is more to determine fit, right? Like if the person actually fits in your organization, you'll get along with that person. That's the only thing interview is good for, right? All these other things that you do really have no correlation to job performance, So references and actual job experience, No, I mean, every person who's coming to you, well, unless they are freshers, right, like, at an entry level, they would have worked somewhere else. So ask them for references, right? And do that background check before you make any offer. And then another thing that I have heard that, to motivate them before they join, right? Make the interview process really hard, right? Like you make it so hard that they have to work very hard to get in. So if they succeed, they are coming in motivated. But that's only to increase their motivation, not to judge whether they are good or bad.
Yeah, so ref checks are important, but I think the hardness of the interview process, it is up to you to decide, right? It depends on what is your product and what is the scalability of the product or the service that you are offering, right? If your customer base is very small, then you don't need a big rock star, right? So that is where, you know, some of the companies we have seen is it's not that they only want to hire people with strong pedigree. They have hired people from normal engineering colleges who are probably have done extraordinary work in their academics, right? I think when you screen the resumes, right? So that is other role which an entrepreneur has to play. You know, when you are a co-founder, you are not just a CTO or a tech guy. You are the salesperson, you are the tech guy, you are the HR, right? So don't be, spend lot of time to screen those resumes. If the skills table is pretty bigger with lot of rows and columns, and what they do, what the description of their role is just in 2 lines, I think they're not your right candidates probably, right? Pinch of salt can be, you know, they don't know how to prepare their resumes, but usually that is not a, you know, valid reason, right? So I think, as you rightly said, you know, give importance for resume screening process. Spend a lot of time. It's a good time to spend there, right? Yeah, candidate engagement programs. That's my last point. So how do you engage these candidates? So that's my, so this boils down to my first slide, right? Higher definition, right? So it's not about just offering a candidate and assuming he will join. What will you do? Some of the best practices I have seen in few startups and enterprise firms are, you know, they conduct hackathons, and they also involve the hired candidates for such kind of events. I have seen a lot of beer bash events, you know, wherein hired candidates are also involved in these engagement programs, right? So I think we need to always come up with post-sale service model, right? How do we engage these candidates, right? This is very important. See, our process of top talent hiring runs like an automobile company, right? You also push, you also have to do a post-sales for that. So we need to have, some of the companies I have seen, they give dummy projects, right? Not exactly too dummish in nature, but a semi-genuine project for these offered candidates, just to keep the engagement levels on, right? If a newsletter comes outside the market, it is shared with the candidate, right? Just to ensure there is an engagement, right? My suggestion is don't shortlist any top talent if they have a notice period of 3 months. Mostly you will not be able to hire those candidates, right? Anything less than 45 days is a fair deal for all of us to hire top talent, right? So that's where it is. Yeah, that's what I would like to conclude here. So you should hire right candidates. You should hire top talent. Yeah. Any questions?
Yeah.
Yes.
You actually mentioned that hiring interns is not a good idea if you want to hire them for long term. Can you just, because a lot of startups use that as a strategy when they begin, right? Until the base is set, they use interns until it comes to a certain stage. So why is that a bad idea? You mentioned straight away that it's a bad idea hiring an intern. So just can you just throw some light on that?
So I didn't say intern hiring is a bad idea. It's about the need analysis. You look at your need, right? I'll give you an example. In my organization, we do hire interns. Now, what is my need here? We want interns to do some mapping exercises. That's why we hire interns. So, and we also feel that when they do good mapping, eventually they can become great recruiters. So my need is very clear and specific, and for this need, I am attaching a roadmap for that intern, right? So if you are able to do this, right, that's where I answered to the same question. It's not about you want to reduce costs, so you want to hire interns, right? So if you are clear about your intent, then you hire them, right? Because they are also good. They also give best to the organization. We have few startup ecosystems where we have seen they have hired 15 interns, 20 interns, and they are doing well. But the need is very clearly defined from the founder, right? So I think you have to be very transparent on that thing. Then make a judgment whether you want to hire an intern or not. It's definitely not a bad area. Yeah.
Hi, my question is how to handle.
Just worried about the next session. Yeah.
How to handle politics in a startup team?
Okay.
Yeah.
So do you see that happening?
Yeah, in my remote team.
See, I think again the code of transparency is very important here, right? When you say politics, when would politics happen, right? When we don't have a process to communicate it well to everyone, right? If as a manager, if I don't communicate few things because, okay, I felt I should not communicate, very casual, right? Then, you know, that person, if he's really, first of all, if he's really political, he is not a right hire. But if he's political little bit, it will become more bit, right? So I think, again, it boils down to the way you are going to feed the transparency part to that team member, right? Otherwise, yes, definitely it will come into the picture, right? And the difficult part is how to show them a way to move out. That is much more difficult, right? I think the screening process has to be very tight here when you are assessing those candidates, right? My suggestion is don't manage too large teams. That is where these issues will come, right? Manage smaller teams, 3-member, 4-member team. There is more visibility, right, when you are managing. The moment becomes a 10, imagine 10 people report to you. For sure, politics will be there. If you have 3 people reporting to you, or at least make a team structure where you have 10 people, but there is a manager in between, right? So you can reduce the politics here, right? Yeah. All right. Thank you so much. Wonderful time I have spent. I would thank Citrus Pay for making this happen. Thank you so much.
Darshan. For those of you who are tweeting, please use hashtag #upstart@CitrusPay. Right? I would invite Rishabh to come and speak about the unconventional experiments during hiring.
Hi everybody, I'm Rishabh. I run a company called Belong. Before I start the talk, just want to get a sense of the audience also, right? So that, I mean, if it turns out that my talk is going to be irrelevant because I didn't research enough, then it won't be good for you guys, right? Saturday morning we've taken up. So just wanted to get a sense, how many of you are currently in the middle of hiring somebody, either as an entrepreneur or as a member of a team? Like, how many of you are currently going to hire? Okay. And how many of you have been part of hiring processes where you've done interviews and where you had to hire somebody? Okay. Okay. So I want to speak about some unconventional experiments during hiring. I call them unconventional simply because when we tried these, we couldn't find a lot of other people who I mean, we just sort of felt at that time that this was not what a lot of people were doing. It was not just based on being different. A lot of this is based on true stories where either me or my co-founder have spent time in. A lot of early stage companies where, you know, the challenge is that when you're a very, very early stage company, right? So I'm speaking from the trenches, which is that at least 4 of these, right? Grey Orange, Belong, Practo, Exotel, me or my co-founder were, you know, either employee number 1 or 2, or we were founders, right? And the challenge that you typically have, and a lot of these companies started in 2010, is that 2010 was not like 2014, right? You don't have a brand, you don't have investors, you have like maybe 1 incubator. When I reached out to my friends, So I graduated from BITS in 2010 when I reached out to my really close friends who were working at large companies to come say that, hey, we're going to build this great company. They showed me the finger, and it wasn't the thumbs up, right? So that was like really humbling, right? Where you're like, I want to build this team. When we reached out to exec search firms, we were too small as a startup, right? That, hey, you guys can't afford us, you guys don't have a brand, so either they did not work for us or we were not good enough for them, right? Job boards, so when, so my co-founder was the first head of marketing at Practo. Then Practo was not even called Practo, it was called Nabo Solutions. Now it's like $1 billion company, right? When he was looking for a head of marketing to sort of take over his role, people from oil and gas companies started applying, right? The kind of, so basically what I want to share is that a lot of what we tried was because out of necessity, because things were not working, and we really, really had to find good guys who would believe us, right? And so I'm hoping it's going to be maybe relevant to you guys as well, because at least some of the things that I'm hearing seem to, I mean, I can really relate to it, right? So when some of the people said some of the things, I just felt like walking over and hugging them and saying, yaar, theek hai, samajh aa raha hai. So I'll just directly go into what are some of the things we tried. There are, I think, about 6 things that I've written. The number one thing that we did was that we didn't hire either an HR or a talent acquisition person early on in each of these companies. I'm also not being entirely truthful because at Belong we are now 80 members and we still don't have either HR or talent acquisition. What we did was instead, we found the smartest guys we knew who were outgoing, and we basically went and hired them. So at Exotel, for example, there's this guy called Sudhindra. This is a picture of him from 2014. He was a junior from BITS. He had 10,000 followers on Twitter. There's a website called Hacker News. Are you guys aware of that? Where basically tech, you have like, it's like a news portal just for tech, right? This guy was like number 6 in that out of like 50,000 people, right? So we knew that he was active in the community. He wanted to be a product manager, and we told him, okay, why don't you go hiring? And he was like, hiring? Why hiring? He's like, hey, you're a smart guy, you know people. He was like, hiring is really boring, right? I'm not excited by hiring. We said, okay, why don't you spend time in it and we'll see what happens, right? What was interesting was that because he was a techie at heart, he hated the manual process. So he tried to automate everything. So he wrote a script which would scrape every website and bring out all the candidates, right? He basically would go and create lists of people on Twitter. He would go and figure out, okay, when is the appraisal cycle at a large company, track this guy, see when the appraisal cycle happened, this guy's job title did not change, reach out to him specifically at that moment and say, hey, let's talk, right? It was very interesting to see that when you take people who are not from a particular field, and I'm saying this works well for early stage companies, right? I mean, today, so he was 5 years my junior in college. He was so good that he's now the co-founder of our company. He's 22 years old, right? Second is, we didn't have job descriptions. That is Pandit Nehru during our independence, 1947. 1947 is important because that was probably when the first job description was made, and it hasn't changed since then. At least some of the job descriptions that I see are unbelievably crazy with 18 pages of 500 skills, and when you put all those skills in wherever you're searching, right, whether it's LinkedIn or Naukri, you don't find anybody, right? Because you're looking for everybody. Front end bhi chahiye, back end bhi chahiye, Java bhi chahiye, Python bhi chahiye, mobile bhi chahiye, bhaiya, matlab itna nahi hota hai, right? Nobody can do all this. And if they can, then, I mean, they wouldn't want to join a company, right? They will want to start. So what we did instead was, we had what we call is the candidate persona. What a persona basically is that it's an actionable guide to what is the kind of person we want. So think of it like, if we believe that a person is more than his resume, then it should not just be about skills. It should be about, basically, if I were to give this sheet with this information to a person, anyone can go out and try to hire. So what does a persona look like? Say if I'm looking for a sales guy, right? So the persona would be that, okay, I need somebody who can either deal with different kinds of people. I need somebody who understands complexity in sales, right? We're not an FMCG company, we're an enterprise sales company, right? So you should understand that there are going to be like 6 different kinds of people you have to talk to. I need somebody who is maybe a little bit polished and aggressive. I also need somebody who can say do. So there'll be like a bunch of these things. Now, here are the 5 places where I can find these kinds of people, right? And when you look at, here are the 20 companies that I can go after. And in each of these companies, these are the roles I need to look at. Because what happens, for example, a role like sales, it's not as simple as engineering, right? You will have different titles. So if you're going and searching for a person, right? If you're going out of your way and searching, again, a lot of what I'm saying is going to sound very outbound focused. That's because as a startup, often you don't have a brand, so nobody great is going to come inbound. It might happen by luck, but typically people, you will have to go hunt them down rather than people suddenly discovering you out of the blue, right? So a lot of what, I mean, our learning has been is that if you want to find somebody good as an early stage company, you have to go hunt them down, right? And in many ways, if you think of what agencies and exec search firms do, it's the same philosophy, right? Which is that, hey, we are going to go out and find people and reach out to them, right? Rather than somebody coming and applying. So we had a candidate persona which talks about, here are the 20 different keywords that you should use. Here are what has worked for us. Here are the kind of companies, right? That I think really, really helped us, and we continue to do it today. The third thing, I think you had mentioned about references. One of the challenges in startups is that you don't really have a lot of material available because a lot of this is happening now for the first time in India. So what you will typically find, are any of you part of SaaS companies, software as a service, cloud? So like for example, if I were to look at software as a service segment in India, right? I don't think there is yet a software as a service company which has come out of India which has crossed $20 million in revenue. That book is being written right now, right? Till a few years back, there wasn't a product from India which had 5 million users. That book got written 2 years back. So a lot of these things, you don't really find data, right? And you can't really, there's no Harvard Business Review article for you to go read, right? What do? If you're a large company, you go hire McKinsey, right? If you're a small company, you go talk to 5 of your other entrepreneur friends, get a few data and say, acha, well, theek hai, mota makes sense, right? It's the same with hiring, right? So if you don't really know, you can't really make out much about a person in 2 hours. I mean, you can to some extent, but if there is referenceability available, why not go for it, right? So typically, while people do references, in our experience, we've done extreme referencing. What is extreme referencing? Have any of you done background checks on people when you are hiring them? Any of you guys? How many do you typically do? Like 3, 1. So when we were hiring senior leadership in our company, we did 15. On an average, we do between like 4 to 7. Because, and I mean, at least half of them have to be blind. So what typically we do is the moment the interview process starts, the moment the candidate has expressed interest, we tell them that, hey, I'm going to start doing ref checks on you. The moment a candidate says that, hey, I'm not comfortable, that's actually a red flag, right? Because why are you not comfortable? It's okay if he says, don't talk to anybody in my current company. That is okay. That's okay, right? But if he says, don't do ref checks till the end of the process, I'll be like, boss, I can't really wait that long, right? I need to find out quickly enough so that we can speed up the process, right? I mean, I don't want to then spend after final offer another 2 weeks trying to find out if it's going to take time. So extreme referencing is extremely important, and often, I mean, people are more than happy to talk about it. This can actually help you ask a lot of interesting questions. Typically, the kinds of questions that I like asking in references are the kinds of questions that people can't lie about. There are some questions like that. For example, one question that I ask people during ref checks, when I talk to a person who I wanted a ref check on, and I speak to the guy who is giving the reference, I ask them that, okay, so this typically works when you're talking to peers, right? Peers are not very critical. They tend to say nice things. So I ask them that, okay, this person that you were working with, do you think he could have taken his boss's job? Could he have done the same job that his boss was doing? Why not? Right? So at that moment, it's tough for him to lie, right? So he will try to say something like, okay, you know what? Maybe the boss had experience in managing larger teams. Like that. It's a good question because you can find out something which typically in the usual questions around how did he perform and stuff might not come out. The other question that we ask is, say we hired this guy and in 3 months you find out he was fired. What will be your best guess around why was he fired? Right? It's a very, very important and interesting question because it's tough to lie for a question like this. Right? Interesting things come out, right? Like around, you know, maybe he just got married right now, so he was busy sort of taking care of things at home, or maybe you didn't motivate him enough for the work, or maybe, you know, you didn't give him enough time with management, but it won't be a general answer, right? Some of these are very important questions which we found interesting. So I actually have a list of like around 40 questions that we ask during ref checks. I'll be happy to mail it out to you guys, post the thing with an entire scoring framework and everything. The fourth thing that we tried typically works really well for ops or sales or customer facing roles. It's sort of stupid, but we found it working really well. Basically, if I want to hire a sales guy, I'll go reach out to 10 different companies where I know I'll find them. I just send them a request as a potential customer. The company that goes and replies first, I know that company has proactive guys, right? So typically, if you're going to banks, right, 10 companies, you go reach out to them and you tell them, okay, I want a credit card. The guy who calls quickest is probably the most proactive, right? We've seen that work really well for typically junior level or mid to junior level roles, especially around ops and sales. It's a pretty interesting proxy for, you know, being proactive and basically finding people who are hungry, right? Because that's what you want in these kinds of roles. This clip is from a movie called Glengarry Glen Ross. It's about a sales guy who talks about always be closing. We have a mantra inside where we say always be sourcing. Also, typically when you're thinking of sourcing candidates, we feel that any potential congregation, whether offline or online, where you have people is a good place to source candidates. It need not only be LinkedIn or, you know, Facebook or some of these social networks, right? Imagine you're a team that really, imagine you're a Make My Trip, right? You're a travel company, right? You want to find people typically who might enjoy travel. Why? Because they might have a deeper mission connect with what you're doing as a company, right? Couchsurfing is a site where basically people go, and if you're traveling to a place, you can stay at somebody's house. It's like the Airbnb 1.0, right? Imagine you go to Couchsurfing and type in the keyword software engineer. What are you going to find, right? Or Grokbase, for example, is a very, very interesting portal where, so you have mailing lists, right? We are all part of mailing lists, right? Now, mailing lists are typically just looked at as email groups. What if a mailing list could become a social network? What Grokbase has done is they have basically indexed like 100,000 mailing lists out there, and they have found each person in these mailing lists. So if you were to Grokbase and type in my name, you will see what are all the public mailing lists that I'm a part of. This is an amazing place to find people, right? Why? Because imagine you want to find a big data developer. You could either go and look at his resume, do ref checks, or if I were to go to Grokbase, I were to find a guy who is part of the Hadoop community maintained by the Apache Software Foundation, and he has 6,000 posts there over the last 5 years. I don't think I really need much more to at least get him, to consider him for an interview, right? Because it shows commitment over a long period of time. Google patent search, typically if you're looking for something a little bit more specialized or specific, right? So say you want to work on, I don't know, you guys are working on servers or storage or virtualization or payment gateways, anything, right? You're looking for something where you need to set up an R&D team. Patent search is an amazing place to find people, right? Because you'll also find who are the other guys who worked on it. It's a great place to find people, right? So always be sourcing is something that we do. Every single person in our company is always looking for people that they can connect with, people who can potentially come and build a company with us. The final thing that we've done is this movement that we've started, which is HB, not HR. We believe that we are all human beings and not human resources, and basically treating them as human beings is something which is very closely embedded in each of our processes. Some of the things that we have done, which might give you guys ideas as well, is, for example, so everybody gets lunch, dinner, and food. I mean breakfast in our company, right? Because people are working long. We also don't want them to be wasting time going out for lunch. Most of the people are unmarried, so they end up spending a lot of time trying to figure out what to eat. But if you look at our team page, you'll also see photos of our chefs, and they also have equity in the company. We don't just have a team page; we also have an alumni page. People who had worked with us earlier, right? Because we don't just want us doing ref checks on people, but if somebody wants to join us, we want them to be able to do ref checks on us as well. Because if somebody speaks to somebody who was part of us and they say, "Yaar, sahi tha," half the battle is won there, right? Some of the other things that we've done actually around the part around candidate engagement, which is extremely important, is, I mean, you have to, we really feel that recruitment is more similar to sales and marketing than it is to HR. Think about it, right? What does recruitment include? You're doing events, marketing. You're running ad campaigns, marketing. You have a funnel, sales and marketing. You're selling the candidate a vision, sales, right? A lot of these things become really important, and you want to basically take some of these things into account, right? So I'll give you an example of one particular candidate where there was a guy that we wanted to hire, and we really liked him. He was young, just out of college. He was part of Google Summer of Code, which is like this prestigious program Google has for 2 years in a row. Really smart guy. And we gave him an offer, and there was another company, right? We're talking about early 2015, things were a little crazy, who gave him an offer like 2x of what he was being offered by us, right? And we just felt that he was way too young, and we didn't want to spoil his life by giving him a really crazy package, because we knew that he wouldn't be able to find anything else later, right? So we told him, boss, this is not going to work out. We really like you, but we also know that you're not. We felt that maybe he's negotiating so hard because he doesn't know, not because he just is trying to get the highest offers. We thought he's a good guy at heart. What we did was we set up a mailing list. All the people that we've ever offered and who've not joined us and who we like, we had a mailing list. And we kept on having a drip marketing campaign around that, right? 1 month later, when he got the message from us saying that, oh, we've grown 2x in size, we've added these customers, he replied back saying, oh, it's really good to hear what's happening. By the way, I'm not really having that great a time because they told me that I'm going to be working on this and instead I'm doing this. I'm not really having a good time. Is the offer that you guys are giving, is it still valid? I mean, we like opened 4 bottles of beer that day, right? Because it sort of validated what we believed in, right? Which is that as long as you're human, as long as you're really treating people as people, and you're constantly in constant contact, right? Some of these things have an amazing way of coming back, right? Just, I mean, as long as you're human. So typically when we also give feedback during interviews, there is, I mean, we try to give as candidate feedback, right? I mean, there are cases where we've spoken to people who have a really, really impressive resume, right? Like he might have been like an R&D head of a Fortune 500 company, and we just didn't feel that he was right for us, right? And we told him, right, we feel that I don't think you might be right for us, or we might not be the right time, right? I think people really appreciate the honest feedback. Often, you know, the worst feelings as a candidate is that you put in all that effort to apply to a company, and then you don't find out why you were not rejected, right? Like, which makes you go like, hey, what the hell, right? I'm not a commodity. I'm not just a number in your ATS, right? So I think that is something which helps a lot, because it also helps in word of mouth, right? Because this is the guy who's going to later go on to Quora and type in, oh, I had a great experience, and well, it didn't really work out, but you know, I had an amazing experience. It works wonders, right? So I mean, these are some of the things. The final thing I'll end with in recruitment that we've followed is, if there's a doubt, there's no doubt, right? Now you can do ref checks, you can have your interviews, but at the end of the day, it becomes a yes or no decision, right? In startups, most things are yes or no. Like, gray might be good from an analysis perspective, but you don't want to be taking decisions when it's gray, right? So if somebody comes on board, you want to be like, okay, you know what? this person might not really be everything I'm looking for, but I now believe in this guy, he's on my team, I'm going to do whatever it takes for him to succeed, right? And if I'm not really sure that I can't do that, and there are too many doubts around, hey, you know, will he be committed? Will he be excited about this? Is he going to stick around 3 months later? Boss, just don't go with it. I mean, we had to interview, there's this new role that we had in our company called customer success, right? Which is basically post-sales. It's probably one of the hardest roles to find in India because you need to know a little bit about everything. You need to know product, you need to know sales, you need to know operations, you need to know support. It's really, really hard, and because not too many companies have that in India, right? We had to interview like 140 people to find that, right? I mean, if it doesn't work out, it's okay, right? And also a lot of times you end up taking a leap of faith, which is what you say that, okay, he might not really, and you look for patterns and trends. Like in our customer success team, for example, we saw each of the candidates and we saw that, okay, on paper, nothing really seemed common. One person was from a semiconductor company. One person had his own robotic startup. One person was from a recruitment agency background. One person was from an assessment company background. There was nothing in common when we looked at their resume. But a closer look showed us a very, very clear pattern, which now we know is what we are looking for. Each of them loved to teach. So the person coming from a semiconductor company is a Zumba teacher. The person coming from the assessment company teaches at Make a Difference Foundation. Person coming from the other company was a fellow at Teach for India. It was very clear that if you were to do a post-sales process at an innovative software company, you have to get your users to adopt into the product, and so they should love teaching. And so now we know that, okay, regardless of your background, this is the one thing that we are going to be checking for, right? These patterns always exist, right? So typically, why don't we, if you look at our team page, you would notice that everybody, like 30% of the company are either current or former entrepreneurs. And the people who leave us, 70% of them have gone and started companies on their own. So we know that, okay, entrepreneurship is in the DNA. If there is an entrepreneur, everything else being equal, we'll prefer that person compared to the other. And it's okay making choices. You have to make a choice as an early stage startup, right? Or another thing is we like people who are humble, right? So if you see a guy who comes in and he knows everything, then we are like, yaar, maybe we are not the right place for you because, yaar, tumko to sab pata hai na, hum kya sikhayenge tumse? You have nothing to learn from us, right? So we will go reject people based on that, right? Or, you know, I mean, I think some of these patterns always exist, and it makes sense to go and analyze that. And the final thing is, I think, you know, as an early stage company, hiring should be the most important thing. Like in each of these companies that you saw on the first thing, hiring took up 60% of time for the founders. Today, most of my time, at least like 50 to 60% of my time goes into hiring. It is the most important thing. I mean, there is no point building a company if during the first 2 years as a founder, you're not spending at least 50% of your time building the company. It has to be one of the founders doing it, and like it has to be, this has to be like a board level thing, right? One of the things that I find interesting in India is how recruitment doesn't, or HR doesn't feature at the board level in a lot of companies, right? When it should. Like there has to be a seat on the board. Like your board meeting, you should be discussing, here are the guys that I've hired, this is what they've done. It is the most important thing, right? So I'll be happy to take any questions. Finally, may the force be with you. I hope all of you have amazing experiences. Most of the things I've learned in life has been through recruitment. So I'll be happy to help out and take any questions that you guys might have. Yeah. HB, not HR. Be human. I mean, when we give an offer to a guy, if we offer a person in our company, we go crazy about it. Like I'm talking about, I'll find out his kid and I'll send his kid a small t-shirt with belong written on it. If his kid is wearing a t-shirt which says belong on it, chances are he'll feel a little bit more connected, right? I'll go find out what are the interests that that person has, and we will try to ensure that he's doing, he has a life beyond work, right? Or one of the biggest reasons that has worked for us is that we listen to the feedback that our team gives us and we act on it really quick. Often what happens is the signals are there. See, people don't quit overnight. The signals are there. For example, I'll give you a simple signal, right? How to identify. in my company, I know that me or my co-founder at any given time, we have, it's like a body, right? So we are constantly getting feedback from our team. If somebody is disengaged, I want to know that. I'll go on a talk with him, right? If somebody who was tweeting 10 times a week 2 months back suddenly has stopped tweeting about my company or about anything that he likes, right? He likes to talk about cricket, he likes blogging, he stopped doing that. What is happening? Often the challenge is to find out something is wrong. Once you know, then it's up to you to basically go and correct it, right? So people had a problem with Saturdays working. So we said that, okay, you know what? We'll keep the same targets, but if you want to take Saturdays off, it's okay. Take Saturdays off. When we did that, what we found is, I know for a fact now if I go to office, I'll find 70% of the company sitting there. Because they know that it's not a compulsion, but they want to do it, right? I think listening to feedback and then acting on it quick really, really helps, right? One another example, for example, was somebody behaved badly with a woman in our company. No questions asked, we fired that guy, right? Because at no point do we want people not feeling that this is not a safe environment to work, right? I mean, just, I think, proactively listening to feedback, being part of their development. The other thing that we've seen help us is mentors for every single person. Having a mentor for every single person, whether in our company or outside the company, is something that, because then you know that you care about their growth. It's very, very useful.
I have a question. Why is background check so important for a very early stage startup? Because you were mentioning background checks.
Right.
I have like only 3 to 4 employees right now, and I'll be hiring around 4 to 5 more. So should I go do around background check for them?
All the more important, because a bad hire for a Fortune 500 company will not hurt them as much as for you. Because right now probably you're in your product development cycle or whatever, right? It's going to be a make or break situation if a really important person leaves, right? The reason you want to do background checks and ref checks is because you don't know that guy, right? So you will tell him that, hey, are you motivated? He'll be like, yes. What if he's said it with 50 other companies? Because we experience this, right? We'll have an interview and the guy will be really, really motivated. And I mean, we are in the hiring business, we find out he's talking to 20 other companies. The first question I'll ask is, who are the other guys you're talking to? Who are the people you know? Because background checks basically tells me 2-3 things. One is, it tells me he's confident that he's okay, that he's got nothing to hide. And that is the biggest thing. I don't want him hiding something. Like, for example, it uncovers interesting things, right? Like, a guy had a debt of 60 lakh rupees. There was a guy who had a debt of 60 lakh rupees, and I wouldn't know that if it wasn't for the background check because he wasn't revealing it. And I know that if I were to, as a startup, when we were not funded, ask him to come at a low salary, I don't want him going through that pressure, right? I mean, I don't want to ruin his life where he's half the time thinking about that. How will I find out things, or if he's trustworthy, if he can manage a team, if he's good taking feedback? It's extremely important. Okay, one is you ask that guy and you tell him, give me names of 3 people. We cannot go ahead with the process if you don't give me that, right? That's the first check. If he's not comfortable giving you names of people, it can mean 2 things. Either he's got something to hide, or there's nobody in the world who can vouch for him. Both of which are red flags. If you're hiring for anybody who's not a fresher, even freshers, I mean, those to rahenge, right? I mean, you do enough of them. I mean, you do enough of them till the point you are convinced that there's a consistent story, right? One of the things to keep in mind is when you do a lot of background checks, right, you also have to be prepared that you will find things that, like, nobody is perfect, right? So you will find things which might not be ideal, but that's a threshold that you keep for yourself that, okay, this is what I'm okay with. Like, I might not be okay with somebody lying, but I might be okay with somebody maybe who's done something wrong and it cost the company $1 million. But I might not be okay with lying, right? It's the kind of thing. Around finding out background checks, LinkedIn is great. So you will have some common degree friends. So you'll find out which company he worked in. Just cold email, reach out to a guy saying, hey, you know what, I want to talk to you about this. Anyone from where you can get base. Sure, I mean, like, I don't know where to stop. You don't stop till you have answers. But typically, apart from professional, you might find other people, right? Like if they were part of a university, maybe some professors. If they are part of a non-profit, maybe some of their colleagues there. If they have some interests, maybe people that they have collaborated with. Customers, right? So if somebody is a sales guy, I'll do a ref check on the customers as well that he's had. It doesn't have to stop just at people who've been colleagues. Basically, somebody who knows them. Somebody who knows and can talk to you about the questions that you will ask around that person's personality, fate, kind of stuff. So somebody asked, how do you know a founder is not going to leave in 2 months, right? I will do 45 ref checks on that guy, man. I'll be like, I'll speak to everybody he's worked in the past. Is he loyal? And I'll wait for 5 people saying the same thing. Ref checks can work in reverse as well, which is, say you don't know whom to hire. Okay? And you go to a company and speak to 5 people there and you ask them, who is the best guy? 3 people say one guy's name. You go hire him. So it can work reverse as well, where you use ref checks to actually identify potential guys. It's amazing. Yeah. I'll just share it and maybe you can share it with everybody.
Hi. So my question is, in the initial state of startup, when you are hiring for a 4th or 5th employee, in executive board, with a only stake part as a compensation.
Where the only?
Stake as a compensation.
Okay.
What can be a good motivator? Is it a good team which makes a good motivation for the candidate to come in? Or is it a good idea? Or if there is something, anything else you would like to quote?
Are you asking this question to me as a founder or as a fellow employee? Because the answers will be different.
As a founder.
Okay. Again, I'm going to say some things, you may agree with it or not, right?
I just based this question on your experience going through different candidate profiles.
I believe founders get paid last. So if there's any cash in the bank, the employee should get it first and then the founders. So one of the things which helps is if you can tell the employee that, hey, you're not alone, all of us are going through this. Because then people like misery loves company, right? There's no cash in the bank, chalo yaar, ek saath kar rahe hain, right? So that is the number one thing. You don't want that person ever feeling that you're trying to trick him, which typically happens with interns, right? You tell them, hey, work experience milega, I'm not going to pay you and work 20 hours a day for me. Maybe that's one of the reasons why interns don't work out well, because you might not be treating them equally good, which is not fair also. One is that. I think the second is just showing them the vision, right? They have to be infected by the vision. They have to, which means that you also want a person who can handle it. So, for example, when I speak about all these different sources where you're going to find people. So, for example, let's take the example of Practo, right? When my co-founder Vijay was trying to hire for Practo, he was trying to find people who might have had people with terminal illness in their family, or people whose parents are doctors, because they'll be able to connect more to the vision. See, once somebody connects to your vision, right, then you can explain to them, hey, this is worth it. Because, hey, you and I believe on the same thing. You get what I mean, right? There has to be that deeper level connect, right? That's why do people work at NGOs for free? Like, I was working at a venture capital firm where we were investing in rural areas. And, we were able to find, like, guys from Harvard, Stanford coming to work in a village for, like, hardly anything, right? And because they were able to connect with that vision, I think that is the other thing which is really important. Third is you have to basically find things that what do they value? Okay, I only have equity. What are the other things you value? Maybe he's joining you because in his previous company, he never got to do something. Give him that ownership, right? Basically, you need to find out what is he giving up apart from, or what did he not get in his previous roles, and then give him that. Yeah.
Good afternoon. My name is Nilab. Before I ask the question, I'll thank Citrus and Beehive for doing this, because I have founded a company and I just finished my engineering this July actually. So for people like us, this is a very good platform to know and understand things. Yeah. Thank you for that. Second, sir, my question is very much situation based. There's a situation, this particular situation that I'm facing. Sure. I'd like to ask you of how to go about it. my situation is I started my company 4 months back while I was doing engineering. And there was this person who was my co-founder who left me, I think in 2 months he left me because he had some other interest and he started working in some other startup. So 2 months have happened since that, and now he wants to come back. And he wants to come back, and he said that, see, for me, commitment of the person is very much important at this very stage. And so first question is, how do I, first, you know, he has already left me in 2 months, so how do I know he's committed? So अपने दिमाग से मैंने क्या किया, मैंने बोला कि boss, I think you should you know, invest in the company as well. So because he's also a student, हम लोग बचपन के दोस्त हैं actually. So I said कि this is one thing, because हम लोग के लिए पैसा का भी value बहुत ज़्यादा, and we invest money, so I think yes, he's going to, you know, work for me. So what he says that yes, I'll invest money, but I've been working for this startup for 1.5 years, and I think I have this particular set of talent, and I need premium on what he's, the equity that he wants. He needs, say, if I'm giving you X rupees on face value, if I get X percentage, no, I don't want X, I want X plus, to say 25% premium I want on, because basis on my skills. So I don't know how to go about it, because I say, what do I say? Because right now I say that no, boss, you are coming back to me, and right now we are not at a stage of, you know, plus you're working in 2 companies. You're not saying that you're going to work just for me. You're saying, you know, he's saying that I'm not 100% going to work with you, but I'm going to work with that place and this place as well. So in this type of situation, what do I do? Should I let him know, okay, you take premium and I want you and I need you? Should I not show the desperation? I said, no, boss, I think you believe in my idea. Let's go on face value, because it will be both just for me and you, because it's a bootstrap startup, and whatever equity it is, what I have put the money in. So
why doesn't he want to come full time? Because
he's already working in a startup back in Delhi. So he's saying that.
I mean, that's not a like. What do you mean because he's working? Then why does he want to come and work with you as well?
He says the company he's working in right now does not require 100% of his time, but it requires most of his time. And the less time he wants to work with me and, you know, work in business development, business growth, and things like that.
So okay, very, very tricky yet not uncommon situation. It happens. I think you as the founder have to figure out one thing. Are you viewing him as a potential co-founder or as a consultant? Once you take that call, right, you can then separate the two. So you tell them, okay, there are 2 parts to this. And I'll tell you why I understand what you're saying. I joined Belong 15 days or 20 days after it was started. Before joining Belong, I was also the first investor. And I didn't have any money because throughout the time I've only been working in startups. So whatever little savings I had, I just put in this company, and I was like, you know what, you guys are my friends, take all this money and start. So I knew that, okay, at that time I didn't know if I wanted to be a part of this, but 15 days later I was like, I don't want to miss out. I want to be part of starting this, right? Once you decide whether you are looking at this person as a consultant or a founder, then you can separate the 2 teams. His investment, keep it separate. The premium that you're talking about is basically because of his skills, right? That is going to be a different part. So think of that as the consulting angle, right? And there maybe you can, it need not even be in terms of shares, right? It could be in terms of revenue sharing. If he's doing BD, you can say, okay, you know what, investment side alag rakho, and here we'll do a revenue share. Let's do that. That's one option. Because it's basically milestone based, right? I really feel here anything which is revenue side needs to be milestone based. Anything actually has to be milestone based. But if he's not joining you as a founder, right, which means he's going to share your pains that you will go through for sure, then you're basically taking him on as maybe a consultant or somebody who's doing something part time, right? So then keep it milestone based and have an honest conversation with saying that, hey, this is why I'm doing this. Because tomorrow if I need to go hire somebody else and I give you all my equity and we might have investors, right? I need to have space on my shareholding structure that I'll be able to build a team, right? And if you guys connect and he's able to understand, then you go ahead with it. And if not, then there's a doubt, there's no doubt.
I want him on my team. I know that. I know he has a particular skill set. I know that, yes, it will be nice having him on my side.
Yeah, but skills has got nothing to do with, it's not got so much to do with being a founder. Like Like if you think about Steve Jobs, he didn't really have any hard skills as such.
No, so sorry. From skill set, I do not mean that he's this qualification. Qualification हमारा बराबर ही है. But in terms of, I know how he goes and speak to people. I know how passionate about things he is. So that I'm talking about. So I know he's good for the company. I know that is good.
That's okay, right?
But I know that should I give him the premium? And it's not about the premium about 1% or 2%. It's
Like
about the idea of giving him premium at this stage when he's coming back to me. That's what I'm thinking.
And equity is a way to retain somebody. I don't think equity is a way to. It's a way to incentivize, but it's a weird incentivizing. It's to make them retain, really, right? So like you want him to stick around, and hence you're giving him some stake, saying that boss, it makes sense for you to build this, right? It comes down to if you think he's going to be able to add value, and you think that he'll be able to take the company from 0 to 10x, then you give him equity. Or best is keep milestones, right? Say that okay, if you hit this, you will get this much. If you hit this, you will get this much. If you hit this, you will get this much, right? It typically helps, right? Because otherwise, what might happen is imagine you give him founder equity, and then things don't work out later. Then you've given it. There's no way to get it back. It's not ESOPs, right?
In Delhi already, and he is working with couple of more companies. That itself is a very danger point for all of us, right? I think you have to be very clear, right? That you need a full-time founder or a co-founder, because I have a very clear-cut vision, which is for next 3 years. I know I want to become a number one in whatever domain I am in, right? And this is what I want to, and I've documented it, what I want to become and how I want to become. I think when these things are very clear in your mind, right, I think you should be very upfront with him, saying that I need a full-time founder. I don't want to just hire a co-founder who will also work there, and also add value to me. He might be very good, but I think you should drop him. You should drop him. Right? Otherwise, let him come with lot of commitment and make things happen for you, right? And then take the stakes, right? That's where it is.
Typically, the startup journey when the media reports it will be like this, but in reality it is like, and there are lots of those. So you want somebody you can share that pain and as well as the good times with.
Hello, good afternoon. This hiring process, for me, it starts when you have figured out you need these many people for these all positions, and it ends when you have finally those people in your office. So my question is, how much time should this hiring process take? How many days should it take? Maximum kitna jana chahiye?
There's no rule, right? There are companies that make it like, I was working at a venture capital firm where hiring is a 1-year process. If you're looking for a COO, right? It depends on how critical is the need, right? And how important is that role? Depending upon that, you will figure it out, right? Like you won't have a walk-in for a CTO, right?
For example, my need is for those people who can connect to my idea and help in growing my company, because it's a very early phase. So for this type of hiring, how much time should I put into this? Like, is it advisable to put months, considering I'm just starting?
I think you should look at it in 2 ways, right? I think to hire somebody, you can make it quicker, right? It's about what are you going to hire him for. So just as long as you're okay and you set the expectations right. So I would say don't go hire for a very critical position and give titles upfront. Forget titles at your stage, right? Just tell you want to go join. Take an experiment, right? You can run various experiments by saying, okay, let's try this for 3 months, or come on board. I think all that is okay, right? But typically hiring processes for startups, the faster they are, the better, because what happens is when you're speaking to candidates, they're also speaking to other companies. Unless you have like reached out to a person and like really convinced him and it's unique. Typically for sort of vanilla roles, right? Which I would say are roles which every company would have. They're speaking to other people because even they are trying to hedge their bets, right? They don't want to put all their eggs in their basket. So the faster you keep it, the better it is. One of the things that we do is we keep it really fast and we make it very clear at the beginning is that, hey, you're going to have 24 hours to give me an answer. So we will, from our side, be honest with you and tell you that we'll keep it really quick. So we have like 7 rounds, okay? 2 rounds on the phone and assignment, and then 5 rounds in the office. We can either do it all on one day, or we can do it over, 2 days. That's okay. But we will be quick from our side. But then you also have to basically, keep your end of the bargain and give us an answer in 24 hours. That works well when, that's when you know that the guy really also wants to join you, right? Which works well. But I think for startups, the shorter it is, the better. But like I said, right, always be sourcing, man. Always be, like, it never stops, man. Like, because when you're asking me, I'm just thinking how long would I wait, and I would say forever, right? Like I would always be looking.
Okay, and my second question is, I'm looking at a person who can be a potential co-founder for me. What are the things which I should offer him from my side? What are the different things which I can offer him from my side to so that he relates to my idea and he stays with me for a very long journey?
I'll give you an example of a couple of companies, right? Because for each person it might vary, right? There was a company where an entrepreneur joined as a co-founder, but he was given 4% stake. The reason he left the company eventually was because he felt, people join as founders for variety of reasons. Some of these reasons are to make money. Some of these reasons are to affect the culture. Some of these reasons are to build something big. Some of these reasons are to have flexibility and not have a boss. People have different reasons sometimes, right? So companies get formed because of 2 or 3 things that I've noticed. Either it's a bunch of people coming together to solve a problem, or you have a solution and now you have to find a problem where the solution works. Typically a very R&D tech focused stuff. Or, you are trying to fix a problem and you will figure out whatever the solution is, right? Try to find out what your founder is excited by. And then once you found out, right, basically go out of your way to make it an equal thing. So the case of this guy who had 4% equity in the company, when he started a company, he found his co-founder who was 10 years younger to him, and he did a 50-50 split. It is unheard of, right? Typically, when you have somebody who's really, really senior and somebody who's junior, it's like, acha, 80-20 karenge. He gave a 50-50 split because he's like, I don't ever want my co-founder feeling what I felt, ever. So I'm going to, even though he's really young, I'm going to basically give him half the equity so that I don't ever, that's the faith I'm putting in him, right? And so then the other person also starts believing. I'm just giving an example, right? But basically you go, or in the other case, I'll just give you an example, right? Some of the other things I've heard people do. You found a founder and you took in, so in the same case, the founder was so young that the entire guarantee, whatever, was taken on by the other founder. Which means that if something goes wrong, this guy will go to jail, the other guy will not. Doesn't mean that something will go wrong, but I'm saying it makes a statement that I'm willing to do this for you. Or, it's a two-way thing, right? So you make a gesture saying that I'm letting you come into my world, now you discuss what, right? And if you see the proactiveness from the other side, then you are on the right track. But if you start seeing that person then start, negotiating on petty things, right? 21 ke badle 22 though, then like that person probably will not be able to understand when things go bad. How are we doing on time? Because I'm not sure. You're okay? While hiring interns, I think it depends on what kinds of interns you're hiring. Typically, there are some kinds of roles where, I've typically, so if I look at, okay, HR or sales marketing, I think you want to see some demonstrated success. It doesn't, even if, so typically interns will not have work experience, right? But you want to, but sales mein, what are you trying to do? You're trying to see if the guy can sell. So you ask him, what have you sold ever? Right? Like I met this guy who's fresh out of college. For his college fest, he basically convinced his college to spend 20 lakhs to create a football field. I want that guy. That's amazing, right? So different people can sell different things. A guy who convinced his parents to let him stay, move out of his village and come to the city. Sales, right? Basically, you're looking for people who can convince the other guy and they have a strong sense of belief. So if I'm hiring an intern, I'll check for, he'll tell me something, I will try to question that. I'll want to see how strongly he's able to stick to that. Because typically in sales, that's what's going to happen, right? You will tell somebody to something, he'll be like, boss, what you're saying, I don't believe you. He should be able to stand there and face that, right? So I think some of these things, for an intern, it doesn't really matter if he has experience or not, right? You want to check if it's part of their DNA, because rest of the stuff he'll pick up. So I think for HR, you want to know if that person really enjoys doing the job. Depends again, right, which part of HR. So there's an HR part which is more process oriented. There is a talent acquisition part which is almost more sales oriented type, right? So if you're looking at HR from the process point, you want to see somebody who genuinely enjoys that function. They have to be very process oriented, right? And so they should be able to, like if you were to ask a question, they should be able to explain the process. A question I asked an intern is, how do you make Maggi? I wanted to see how deep will they go, right? So they were like, okay, first open the packet, then do this, then do this. Then. So I knew, okay, if I give this person something very process oriented, they'll be able to do it, right? The other thing is typically, for HR, I would also look at somebody who has a very nice personality, because people, you want the HR to be approachable. You really want the HR to be there to help the team perform their best, right? So they should also be very likable, more so as HR. Like an engineer need not necessarily be that likable, but HR you want them to be like. Guys, I think I don't want to have been standing here for so long, but feel free to email me for any help. Sure.
Thanks, Rishabh. From rock stars to rocks and how not. I invite Sangeeta to speak about that topic.
I think these two guys have actually covered most of the points. Thank you for covering most of my presentation, or I should say my talk. But however, I will like to emphasize on some real important points which we cover but we miss also. And I think here we have a mix of founders as well as candidates or future founders. What I would like to talk about today is not a rocket science, but I want to emphasize my thoughts in terms of how we hire rock stars, or we assume that we are hiring rock stars, and then we see them turning into rocks very soon. So it's all about, as we said, communication. I think it's very important for us to communicate the right kind of goals, vision, what the person is going to bring to the company, where we are going to take his future, etc. We might be thinking about this on a daily basis. Founders do think this, they discuss, we have meetings and all that stuff. But somewhere when we grow, I think we forget this. And we don't communicate enough to teams and to the lowest rung guy in the ladder. And that's where a lot of trouble starts steaming out from. I think it's very important when you're a 2 or 3 people team, and when you grow to like 50, 100, 150, it's still important to have a lot of communication with your teams. Sorry, I'm going to keep looking into this book, so y'all are going to get time to think. And I think it's important to set goals for your people right from the day they join. You would be having goals. And I'm saying all this from experience. So we cannot be like 100% perfect when we hire people. There will be an element where he might be like an 80% fit, 90% fit. And I think we need to make that judgment whether are we okay to go ahead and hire people at an 80% fit or a 90% fit. Is he going to be, and it's completely based on gut feel. You can never be 100% sure that this is the guy who will be performing 100% or 110. It's based on how you motivate him on a daily basis, how you give him the vision, how you tell him that, you know, he also has a chance to grow with your company. I think that's very, very important. most of the times in my experience I have seen where teams fail, people fail, etc. is because of communication. People don't communicate in fact, and people don't communicate the honest truth. Like, we shy away from talking the real facts which are there. Like, if someone is really not doing well, it's important to talk to that person right therein, probably at that moment, and give him feedback. And I think today's generation is very, very equipped to handle feedback and not beat around the bush. We might as well talk and put the bare fact right in front of the person and say that, okay, you're not doing well because of so-and-so reasons, rather than beat around the bush. These are very simple, basic points, but I think somewhere we fail to communicate these kind of things to people out of awkwardness or many other reasons that are there. And then, say, someone comes into the system, 3 months, he's like a rock star. I'm going to say that's the honeymoon period that I call. And then, say, 6 months down the line, you really feel that this guy is not contributing enough. And then comes a situation where after a year, when you do his appraisal, you feel that, okay, the guy has not contributed enough. So communication, your goal setting, even if you're a very small company, a 2-member team or a 3-member team, I think it's very important to have these discussions on a weekly, quarterly basis and take it forward. I also believe that you need to have a lot of love for the people that you hire. I'm talking about love as in genuine goodness. So that slide of yours in terms of being human plays a real part. So as a founder, you genuinely need to feel that attachment and humanness towards the people who work for you. And if you communicate it in the right spirit, I think people also reciprocate and give you back that same love, that same commitment back. And sometimes I feel that people are not so truthful in communicating that love to people. They might have that in the mind, but there's so much of work around that you can't communicate, or you have so many other factors which come in the way. But if you do that, I think half your battle is won, where people will stick with you through thick and thin if you are genuine in terms of telling them that, okay, we really care. Even if you don't pay them 2 months' salary, they'll still stick with you because they can see your vision and your dream. So that kind of honest frankness, freedom, discussions around their personal lives also is very, very important. You need to know what's happening with them. And I think that takes a lot of time and effort on your part, especially when you're building your own company. Like, you're following your dream. You want them to follow your dream, you need to understand their dreams too. So as you grow in terms of getting into the next level, say probably from 25 to 30 people, I think you need to have channels, processes, forums, etc., where you engage people. You can follow best practices in terms of retaining them, and a lot of unconventional things. So there are a lot of things which you can do to retain people, but also in terms of retaining them for a longer time, in terms of giving equity, your other learning practices, or probably showing them the vision in terms of training, development, etc. So while companies need passionate people to work more than 100%, we also need we need to be extremely passionate about the people who work for us and be genuinely interested with their growth, not just as professionals, but also as human beings. Also remembering that they are the most complex products to manage with emotions. So we deal on a daily basis with people who are warm bodies and emotional beings, not products. I think that sentiment which people who manage people need to remember is that everyone has a personal life, everyone goes through so many things in their daily life that things can be erratic. So my whole point of saying things here is that you need to have empathy towards people whom you deal with. And for that you need to be genuinely in love with people and a completely people's person. You cannot be away from the human sentiment and try to hire people. So even while you're hiring people, the kind of questions that you need to be asking is obviously around the skills and what they need to do. But besides that, in terms of what they are interested in, what are the hobbies that they practice. So you get to know whether the person is more alive, even outside the work scenario. So not just the work, like we definitely want to hire workaholics in the startup environment, but also that what do they do besides work in terms of like whether do they have hobbies, do they take enough challenges, are they daring enough? And I think in my interview processes, I always ask them that what makes them tick. So this is my one question which I ask them in terms of like, what is it that makes you tick? How do you stay positive? What are your best achievements so far in life? So people like to talk about themselves and then share details, which is very, very important for us to understand when we hire these people, and then the personalities that they shape up to be in teams. You can actually understand where to fit them in, what will actually motivate this person, what will not motivate this person. So genuinely being interested in a personality is very important when you hire people. Out of the conversations that I heard today and a lot of questions which came up around how do you hire the best people and what do you keep looking at, the attitude of the person when he's in a difficult position or a crisis and how he's got through that. Like you mentioned about critical illness, of if someone has had critical illness, etc. So how does he cope in life with his pressures and how he's come out of it? What is his resilience towards what happens in and around him in life? I think that also teaches you in terms of how people will cope if there are difficult situations in your company. Whether is he a raged guy or is he a calm guy? So if you can throw questions like that, that also helps in a big way. Looking at their resumes, you can know a lot. If someone has actually written their resume or if he's genuinely written his resume. So this is one pointer which I have. So anyone coming to Citrus should not remember this then. When they write their resume, the way they speak about themselves and the points which they have mentioned in their resume, if they have not written it, it does not match most of the times. Like I have figured that out. And sometimes they don't even know what's written in their resume. So I think those are pointers which you can actually make out whether the person has written his resume or he's not written his resume and how skilled he is. Ref checks also, I think you've elaborated a lot. We do a lot of ref checks. You can know a lot. A lot of times people say unsaid things in ref checks where you get to know about the person. So a lot of things which are not that you're trying to dig or something like that, but the person on the opposite side does come out and give you a lot of things, like areas where you want the person to, the candidate to improve on. If these are the questions that you ask people, they come out with certain things which are like a real knowledge hub about the candidate. Like you can come to know that these are the areas that the person has not been good on, which during an interview he would not speak to you. We also give out tasks to people. So if a person who's genuinely interested in your company would take the pain and labor, even if the task or the assignment which is given to him, and complete it within whatever period of time and come back to you. And suppose if someone comes back and does not do the task or gives reasons of not being able to do the task or the assignment, I don't think so he's interested with your company. Making the candidate meet key people in your organization. It's very, very important. As in the founder meeting is definitely important, but also meeting key people of team members which are other teams. Not only the team which he works in, but other teams. It gives you a general perspective of what other teams think and also about what he thinks about other teams. So it's like a two-way feedback. I also believe that in a startup, every person or every employee is a salesperson. It's very, very important to say that they have to be talking your dream to every person or probably in their daily jobs. So I cannot emphasize enough in terms of you have to make them eat and breathe your company dream or vision. So this is like a, like a daily exercise which you would have to do and probably hire people who are much more passionate than you about your dream. So they will run for you and they will run with you. And that's only possible if you can, probably give them that vision and dream. And if you're so positive about it. That's all that I can say. Thank you. Do you all have any questions? Yeah.
So my question is more on the handling the eventualities of an important resource quitting, a rock star who's quitting the company. How are there any steps that a startup can take to protect itself better from such eventualities? I mean, irrespective of how good he is, how the background refs go, how loyal he is, he may be doing an excellent job, but we should always be prepared as founders to let go of an employee when the time comes, right?
Absolutely.
So is there anything, because something similar happened during our startup journey where an important key resource just gave up on us without even giving a valid reason. So there was a sense of we didn't get a closure as such on that employee's, at the same time we started getting callbacks from his potential employers on his, how is he as an employee and things like that. So we shouldn't let it impact our feedback of him. Just because he gave up on us does not mean we give something negative for him or anything like that, right? So, of course, for me, the question is more from the organization standpoint, from the startup perspective, how can we better prepare ourselves to such an eventuality?
So, we will not have someone who will be staying with us forever. That's a given rule. But there will be hints and incidences where you come to know that something is amiss. Like Rishabh said, that you always are on the watch. So if you have your communication ongoing and very transparent, you will get hints. And so again, my point comes here saying that you have to be completely in clue with your people to understand where the meter is going down, or where the person is not into the role, or where he's not, there is something not in sync. And I will not say that this comes out in terms of tools or whatever, but it's your general outlook or approach when you look at people, you generally come to know about this. And sometimes it's also with a lot of experience that you come to know that how people behave in certain situations. So I'm not saying that these skills or this talent for you to recognize how people behave, like I'm saying none of us are psychologists here. But eventually over a period of time, you will come to know when people start behaving in a different manner or dropping those kind of hints or something which is amiss. And especially people put that in the way they communicate. So if he is going to drop the bomb, he will definitely start behaving oddly, not coming to work on time, probably getting delayed for meetings, not submitting emails or responding to emails. So I think these are small clues which you can pick up and know that, okay, something is not right. So also if you have your feedback sessions always with people, you will come to know if they are, not in line with what you're thinking. And in terms of understanding where they are coming from. So sometimes people do genuinely have problems which they don't communicate, which over a period of time build up because there's nobody to listen to them, and then they just decide to quit. Or probably they have not reasoned it out enough within themselves or with people around that, okay, this is a small problem, it can be solved. Some of them are very afraid. So there's another thing. We, in startups, we all love extroverts. We all like people, or we always give emphasis to people who are, always that chatty guy or someone who is like always asking questions and stuff like that. But I think more power also to the introverts who sit and they probably work. So we cannot expect coders to be like huge extroverts also. So I think that also needs to be taken into consideration where you balance it out with all kinds of people. It's a difficult task. But you have to, because you have all sorts of people. Like you cannot be having an organization with only extroverts. So you have to build that balance and build the channel to talk to people who are not so communicative also. So that's where I think a role of an engagement manager or an HR person or a human being comes into play. An exceptional human being actually. Yeah, please. Okay.
Hello. So in the initial stages, there are like 1 or 2 tech leads who play a very crucial role in the startup, which comes to a certain stage. And then when someone new joins it, at that senior level, they kind of go through an insecurity. They don't allow the person to grow, or they don't connect well enough. And the management can't do much because these people have already invested so much into the company through difficult situations. So how would one work out this?
So are you part of the team who reports into the new hire which comes in?
No, I was the new hire. Say already 2 tech leads were there.
Okay.
And the startup has grown from this stage to this stage.
Okay.
And I was meant to be taking it to the next level. There the tech leads didn't cooperate or were like didn't involve me.
So it's a natural human tendency to feel threat.
Okay.
And it's only with more communication or more involvement with them and telling them that, probably showing the bigger picture, not only by you, but also by your founder, saying that this person is not a threat for you. So that communication needs to be done while you join or probably before you join the company, so they are well aware. And then they will probably have a much more reciprocative feedback towards you.
Okay.
You can build it by being more friendly or probably more understanding and not reacting to what they say or do.
Yeah.
And probably over a period of time, this trust can be built. It can't be happening in like a day or a week or so.
Okay.
So it does take time. So that's my whole point also, that these are all human relationships. These are not something which we like press a button and the human being becomes that way. So these are sensitive things which will take time.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Hi.
Hi.
So my question is, as much as the rep checks they are considered, what about the talent acquisition team that they have thorough checks on people, maybe in some sense of Facebook portfolio or his social media feeds?
Right.
What are your perspective on that?
So that definitely describes the personality of the person in terms of what the person is on social media. But this is my personal belief, that what people show out on social media might not be the gospel truth at all times. So there are people with different personalities, split personalities and stuff like that also. So you can't take a social media profile as gospel truth that that's the whole person or the persona of the person. You have to meet the person face to face, spend time and understand, because that could also be a replica of somebody else's social media profile which he's trying to create out there. Could be possible. So you can't take that as 100% truth in terms of hiring a person. That is just one of the areas where you would want to do a check or probably understand, what his interest levels are, etc. But you can't take that as the medium of 100% closing a hire, saying that, okay, this is what the person is. I wouldn't do that personally.
Hi. Hello, ma'am.
Yeah, hi.
My name is Madhukar. Okay. I work from Denser Capital.
Hi.
My two co-founders have developed the company.
Okay.
Oh, I'm the first employee.
Okay.
But in the first 2 months, I thought I'm giving 100% efficiency.
Okay.
But later on, the third month, you said no, third month, this month. But I'm feeling that one in my inner mind, I'm feeling I'm not giving that much of efficiency.
Okay. Why do you feel that?
Maybe lack of communication.
They don't communicate with you enough.
Yeah.
But you all are just 3, right? So don't you get enough time to communicate with them, or are they?
Not in the company.
Okay.
But I have to promote my company to other people.
Okay.
But I feel little bit, lack of communication. I am
So you feel?
communication.
I'm sorry, I didn't understand. You're feeling awkward to communicate with people?
No, I'm not awkward to communicate, but I feel lack of communication. Little bit lack of communication is there. Drawback. One of the drawback.
From the company's side.
Yeah.
Would
to
you
promote my company?
Okay. So you feel you don't have enough information from the people concerned to promote your company?
Yeah, yes, ma'am.
Simple. Why don't you ask them?
So I'm taking the suggestions, but
Okay.
I'm feeling that one I'm not giving 100% efficiency.
So you feel you don't have 100% information, and that's the reason why you are not giving 100%. Is that the thing?
Yeah.
I think the simple answer would be to try and get 100% information, probably have a chat, and then Or don't you believe in their dream? Like, do you believe what you joined for?
Yeah,
You still believe that?
Yeah, I still believe them.
Okay, so then what's stopping you from going in and having a frank chat with them and asking them, you know, I'm feeling like this is my 3rd month, and I really want to be here and promote this place, but then, you know, I'm not getting enough information. Why wouldn't you do that?
Okay, but they are giving the information.
Okay.
But lack of communication only I am not able to do.
I'm a little stuck up on this. You're unable to communicate to people, is what you're saying?
Yeah, yes, ma'am.
So, okay, you're unable to communicate and your energy levels are not 100%.
Yes.
So what do you want to change?
So that's why I asked.
So you're asking me. See, my situation, if I was in this situation, I would definitely go up to them and ask them whatever resources I need to probably understand the whole vision of the company and how I can promote it better. In terms of the energy levels which you're saying, I would reflect internally whether whatever I'm doing is making sense for me. Do I love what I do? That is very, very important. If I don't love what I do, then I'm not going to get up and go to work. It's as simple as that.
Yeah.
So do you love what you do?
Yes, madam. Little bit. Yes.
Okay. This is what I got.
But the thing is that in the startup we have to do, we cannot do this one, we cannot do this one. Everything we have to do, no.
Yes.
But
From Pune to CEO, you're everything.
Everything we have to do. But some parts I cannot interested, but in the some parts I am interested.
Okay.
So in the shootings, we are a venture capital, okay?
Mm-hmm.
We make in a startup show. I mean, we are a separate channel in the YouTube. Okay, it's a weekly startup show. I'm most probably it's like a video taker. I mean, like shooter. Like
Okay.
he is there. Sometimes I have to do networking also.
Okay.
But the thing is that I'm good at shooting. I'm not good at networking.
Okay.
But things we have to do everything.
Why do you think you're not good at networking? Like here you are networking with so many people, right?
I have to do so much of networking, but lack of communication only, I'm feeling awkward.
So you're definitely feeling awkward. That was my question to you earlier. It's just a belief that you have that you're feeling awkward. If you do the things which you dread doing more often, I think you will get over it. So it's only with practice that you will start building up a liking for networking. And if it's part of your role, then I think you should do it more often. I will also suggest that you do things like a dare, which you have never done before. Like start doing it more often and you'll start liking it. So there's no one set mantra on one particular day saying that, okay, fine, tomorrow I get up in the morning and I will be doing like 100% networking. That doesn't happen. So you might as well start doing it as a practice and slowly you will probably build a liking towards it.
Yeah, okay.
Does that answer your question?
Yes, madam.
But you should assess within yourself that why are you not feeling 100% okay? Is it just the networking bit or are there many other things?
Other things also little bit other things.
So you should sit and probably assess and work around those. And I think you should talk to your founders and tell them how you're feeling. Because that will actually open up things to them also.
Okay, ma'am.
Yeah?
Okay, thank you.
Welcome.
All right. So in that case, I'll just pass on the mic to Yulia. She would want to speak to you about Beehive for a few minutes, and then we'll wind up.
Hi, everybody. Firstly, I would like to thank you for coming here on Saturday. What we love in Beehive, we love startups, for your passionate. I don't know anybody who will come on Saturday to hear the talk on hiring. Only startups could do. If you will go to any corporate, they will tell guys we are not interested on Saturday. So it's very pleasant to see so many people here. I just want to briefly tell you what Beehive is. Beehive is a workspace provider, and we also startup. You also see us on Saturday. So we are the largest in Bangalore. We provide a space in such locations like Koramangala, Indiranagar, and HSR. We almost 100% sold. That's a bad news for you and good news for us. But also the most important, Beehive. Beehive is a very strong startup community. And we are very helpful startup community. We believe that when we can help, we will definitely do. In case if you need, if you are hiring, you always can reach us, and we will publish on our social media channels. Because we don't know, will it help you or no, but at least we can do it. If you seeking for investor and you know exactly which investor you would like to reach out, you always can ask us, you know guys, are you connect with Matrix? So if you know somebody, we will more than happy to connect you, and after it, up to you, how you will take it forward. We're also hosting a lot of events where we believe that we bring in value, we bring in experts here and trying to solve and give some advices on startup, on hiring, on finance, on legal. Also, we have a lot of fun events because, as mentioned twice, all of us human beings, and we believe in work-life balance. So guys, if you're looking for a great party, come on October. We will have a great party in October. So that's all about Beehive. So if you need any help, you can reach me out here after events is over. I will be here for some time. And if you need any help, more than happy to help. And second, I would like to thank speakers for your dedication for Saturday talk. It was really interesting to hear from HR side because I'm employer. So what is HR is telling from, let's say, from other side. And we would like to give a small memento to you for your efforts, for your app openings which you made today. So being at Beehive, we have a habit who is not the first time here. We're given a honey. And it's a personalized honey which always will keep you smile and driving on morning to get up and have a nice tea or coffee. Thanks a lot. Thank you, Sangeeta. Thank you, Rishabh. Thank you, Daraj. I maybe pronounce horribly your name. I'm so sorry for it. And thanks a lot to team of Citrus, who is doing an excellent job, not only being payment gateway, but also being a community, and also very friendly community. We are very happy to host you at Beehive. For you, we prepared a little bit not so customized and not so personalized, but also for team of Citrus, we're keeping some honey. So guys, I hope that it will give some sweet to your life. Every morning you can keep it in your office. Thanks a lot, everybody, for coming, and we're more than happy to help.
Thanks a lot, Julia. I would request all three speakers to come in front so that we could facilitate you. Felicitate you. Watch out for your inbox on Monday. We have some cool offers coming to those who have attended that event. We're not now opening the session for networking. We have some roles and soft drinks outside. So that will help you network. Thanks a lot, everyone. Cheers.